Good evening, and welcome to Concrete Block. I'm your host, Walter. In our first segment, we're focusing on two significant stories that have been making headlines in recent days. First, let's look at the situation with the EU and its efforts to finalize a trade deal with the US. The European Union is under pressure to reach an agreement, especially after President Donald Trump threatened to impose a 25% tariff on European cars if a deal isn't reached by July 4th. Negotiations are intense, with the EU seeking safeguards, including the power to suspend the deal if the US violates EU territorial integrity and a deadline for the US to reduce steel and aluminum duties. Meanwhile, another critical issue on the table is migration. The EU is working on new rules for deportations, which will provide legal grounds for member states to set up deportation centers abroad. This move has been met with criticism from some quarters, particularly regarding provisions that allow for home raids and the removal of voluntary return incentives. In related news, EU leaders are preparing to travel to Mexico for a summit focused on trade and international relations. The meeting is seen as an opportunity to strengthen ties between the EU and one of its key strategic allies in Latin America. With bilateral trade exceeding €82 billion, the stakes are high for both parties to find common ground. It's essential to approach these complex issues with a balanced perspective, considering the viewpoints of all involved parties. As we continue to follow these stories, we'll bring you updates and analysis to help you understand the implications of these developments. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're diving into the latest developments in international diplomacy, where China's leader Xi Jinping is set to welcome Russian President Vladimir Putin to Beijing, just days after hosting a high-stakes summit with former US President Donald Trump. This tightly sequenced visit has sparked widespread attention, with analysts noting that it's extremely rare for a country to host the leaders of the US and Russia back-to-back within a week. The relationship between China and Russia has been deepening, with bilateral trade soaring to record levels since 2022. China has purchased over 1/4 of Russia's exports, including hundreds of billions of dollars worth of fossil fuels, which has helped sustain Moscow's war efforts in Ukraine. This economic support has been a cause for concern in the West, particularly given China's growing influence on the global stage. Meanwhile, Trump's visit to Beijing seemed to focus on trade, Taiwan, and the war in the Middle East, with Xi pressing Trump on the importance of handling the Taiwan issue properly to avoid conflict. The potential sale of US weapons to Taiwan remains a contentious point, with Beijing seeking to take control of the self-governing island. As we look ahead to the Xi-Putin meeting, it's likely that energy security will be a key topic of discussion. China may be seeking to sign more fossil fuel deals with Moscow to ensure its supplies in the event of a future conflict, potentially including the expansion of the Power of Siberia 2 gas pipeline. We'll continue to monitor these developments and provide updates as more information becomes available. The complex web of international relationships is constantly evolving, and it's essential to stay informed about the latest shifts in global power dynamics. Welcome back to Concrete Block. As we wrap up today's show, let's take a closer look at two concerning reports from the World Health Organization that have significant implications for global health and pandemic preparedness. Firstly, a new report warns that the world is not ready for another pandemic, with investment in global health research, prevention, and preparedness failing to keep pace with the increasing frequency and intensity of infectious disease epidemics. The Global Preparedness Monitoring Board states that despite having more knowledge, tools, and resources than ever before, the trajectory of pandemic risk is moving in the wrong direction. This alarming assessment comes as the WHO declares an ongoing Ebola outbreak in Africa an extraordinary public health emergency. The outbreak, which marks the 17th Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo in the past half-century, has raised concerns about the ability of countries to respond effectively to emerging health crises. Meanwhile, another report highlights the risks posed by declining pandemic preparedness funding, with countries investing less in global health and systemic resilience. This reduction in funding could have devastating consequences, including a significant increase in preventable deaths from diseases such as tuberculosis and malaria. It's essential to acknowledge that these reports are not intended to spark panic, but rather to encourage leaders to take proactive steps to strengthen global health infrastructure and preparedness. By prioritizing investment in pandemic research, prevention, and response, we can work towards creating a more resilient and equitable global health system. As we conclude today's episode, it's crucial to recognize the importance of staying informed about global health issues and supporting efforts to improve pandemic preparedness. By doing so, we can contribute to a safer, healthier world for everyone. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, stay informed.